Fake news. And it's one way to get started. All right, so what's the problem? The problem, as defined, is fake news here means inaccurate, slanted, or untrue statements broadly shared, sometimes called conspiracy theories. Most people agree that fake news is a problem, even if they think it's the other side, in quotes, that has that problem. In fact, though, we all have a fake news problem. All of us are occasionally fooled by phishing, spam, inaccurate social media posts, things that turn out to be false on Snopes, etc. This is a rampant problem because there's no penalty for posting lies. There's no penalty for posting stories you think are funny and other people take seriously. By the way, this happened many, many years ago. If you don't know, H.G. Wells wrote the book about the Martian invasion, War of the Worlds. It got read over the radio as a live story, and a certain number of people in Britain panicked, thinking that in fact Britain was under actual invasion by Martians. So fake news in the media is not a new problem. And we'll talk about that more in a minute, but it's happened even in innocuous, unintended circumstances. So making sure people can fact check matters, and we'll come to that. I feel our country has a huge problem when citizens can't agree on the basic facts. Is COVID even real? Is it just a flu? Was the election fair? We talked about that. Is global warming a thing? Is there spyware in some software from China? The list goes on and on. You can imagine many of these. What if we could reduce the amount of misunderstandings about that? And importantly, because we're a business, make money at the same time. So we're going to do well while doing good. We're going to make money and solve or reduce this problem. Okay, how? So first thing to understand, there has always been fake news. The Catholic Church famously imprisoned Galileo for stating that the earth orbits around the sun. That was fake news propagated by one of the major institutions of the time, continuing to assert something that most people today, even including the Catholic Church, agree is factually inaccurate. But for hundreds of years, they stuck to this doctrine. Lots of people did not believe the earth was round. A few still don't. A solid number of people, you might even be one of them, or no one, believe the moon landings were fake. They were done in a Hollywood soundstage. There are ongoing theories about who shot President Kennedy. Was it a lone shooter? Was he set up? Was he backed by the Russians? Was there a second shooter on the grassy knoll? You can go down that rat hole as long as you want. The point I'm making here is all of these predate the modern day with social media. None of this is new. So, why is it worse today? Well, what is new? Social media is new. Social media at this scale giving everyone a loud voice. But it's not just social media, it's rather social media and the algorithms the websites use in their self-interest. Social media seeks to show us engaging content. What this means is if you look at it or click on it, you get more stuff like it. And if you scroll past it, over time, you get less stuff like it. You see more and more your friends post and less anybody else. This creates an echo chamber where we only see some perspectives, and importantly, we only see those perspectives that we like from our friends. We don't realize others are not seeing only what we see. We naturally think, well, I saw it, everybody must have seen it. To get more in depth about this, I highly recommend, this is a real recommendation for the stream, anyone watching now or later, watch the Netflix documentary Social Dilemma. There's a ton of interesting executives from Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc., who talk through what's going on, and it's worth understanding. The result is, importantly, members of society no longer see the same information. Now, here's where, because I have gray hair, I get to remind you, some of you who didn't grow up in this era, that things have changed. In the past, as a society, there were 3 broadcast channels in the U.S. In many of the other countries, there was only the BBC or only one news channel. We all saw the same thing. And there were these things called newspapers. And in a given city, in a regular sized city, there was one newspaper and everybody read it. So everybody saw the same news. They didn't see different news. And importantly, it was basically impossible for me to see news that you didn't and to assume that you were seeing what I was seeing when in fact you weren't. Now, in big cities, there were 2 or 3 papers and you could read the conservative paper or the liberal paper, but still, everyone more or less saw the same stories and heard the same broadcasters. The result is we naturally assume everyone is seeing the same facts we are, but that's no longer true. The social media feed edits it so that you and we live in the same city, we experience the same events, but we see starkly different, isolated perspectives of them. That's causing a problem. It's causing society to become polarized. If we drift to any radical fringe, the algorithms ensure that we find and only see opinions like our own of what we want to believe. This is what's called the echo chamber. And it's important, by the way, this has gotten to where people no longer believe the same set of facts. Why does that matter? Our society has grown up and is used to violent differences of opinion. This case here, though, is they used to be based on shared facts. So here's a fact. City X wants to raise taxes. There's an issue on the ballot to raise taxes in order to put the money into schools. We want to pay teachers more, or we want to build a new school, so we have a bond issue. Well, some people view this as higher taxes and don't like them. Other people view this as investing in schools and do like it. But the key is those sides can agree on the facts. They agree on the fact that this is a tax to build a new school. Just one side thinks the old school is fine and the other side thinks a new school is important. But we're in the same world talking about the same facts. This is not true anymore, where the topic tonight, elections or who actually broke into Congress, one side says that was Antifa and one side says that was Trumpers. One side says the election was the safest election in history. That's the fact. And the other side says, no, it was completely corrupt. There is a difference between arguing over the same facts and what we should do about them and arguing about disparate views of reality. Because with disparate views of reality, there is very little way to get to resolution. So let's move on, though. I'm simply setting up the problem. What the hell are we going to do about it, and how are we going to make a lot of money? Coming from Amazon, I proudly proclaim we should build the one-click fact-check button. There exists an opportunity to create a fact-check button. This button can be placed on any page, any post, any tweet. It can be, in fact, should be placed on all of them. It can be served behind the scenes. I left a word out here, terrible faux pas in a presentation. It can be served behind the scenes or served by Google, Microsoft, Wikipedia, or others. Now, I will come to the fact that these are not trusted entities. Wait for that. The button would not lead to one truth per se, a statement of these are the facts, but rather a broad variety of well-regarded sources. So essentially what I envision is a button that automatically Googles the topic of your post and shows you all the results, and you can pick through them. If you don't like Google, use Bing. If you don't like that, go to Wikipedia. Blend them together. The point is, make it really damned easy for any time people see something to say, I want to know more about that. And one click takes them to a bunch of vetted, reasonably vetted sources. Now, it's always going to be the question of who vets things and who gets to be a source in this. We'll talk about that in a second. However, importantly, most of humanity somewhat trusts at least some media outlets. They may not trust them all, but whether it's Al Jazeera, whether it's BBC, whether it's one of the many American media conglomerates, whether it's Wikipedia, there's some set of people that yeah, that's mostly true most of the time. We're going to talk about the people who believe none of it's true. We'll get to that in a minute. stay buckled up. This emulates what we used to have in a newspaper opinion page, where if something was put forward, there was a pro and a con side. So the newspapers would say, there's a bond issue to raise money for a new school, and there would be one person who wrote the pro case and all the reasons a new school is a great idea, and one person who wrote the con case and all the reasons that a new school was a big waste of money and was just higher taxes being thrown away. We no longer have that. Social media creates an echo chamber where if you just scroll your feed, you'll only see whatever it is you want to see. This at least gives people an escape hatch to the social media algorithm. And it's all about reducing friction. What did Amazon learn with one click? When we let you buy things with one click, you buy more things. If there's a checkout process, you buy less things. So make it really easy. That's part one of the proposal of how we're going to fix this problem and make money. All right, what's the impact? The target audience here is not the most extreme believers of any fake news issue. The target here is the vast majority of people who are susceptible to fake news, but are not yet deeply committed to believing whatever it is, that global warming is fake, that global warming is real, that vaccines are bad, they're good. We want people, the vast majority of people actually want to know the truth. They want the facts, but they listen to their friends and can get sucked in when mom or Uncle Ben or whoever, some celebrity figure they follow, says something. Absent any other evidence, they tend to believe it. It's taken 10 years to get into our social media echo chambers. There's clear evidence, see the movie Social Dilemma, that this started around 2008 or so. This is not an instant fix. Instead, this is exposing people to facts over time to try to slowly shift them back to shared beliefs. That's our goal, to shift the vast majority of people back to shared beliefs. If that takes 10 years, that's fine. This isn't a 2021 fix, but we can start today and we can make money all the way along. We'll talk about that in a second. Most people consistently exposed to reasonable views and information will form correct conclusions over time. That's an assertion by me, but I bet you agree with it. I bet you believe that if over 5 years, 10 years, we're mostly exposing people to multiple sources of information and making it easy to check what you believe and to hunt around and research it, that most people will grasp reality. Not all. There will always be fringe wackos. There have always been fringe wackos. Okay, there is nothing new about that. See the examples before. But if we rob the fringe of easy access to tons of fans and money, over years, they'll go back in their holes where they belong or where they were. So what's the business model? I promised money. Pentaquant is here. He'll want to know about money. Look, web search and content sites are already businesses. We're providing a new reason to go to them. So essentially, the fact check button pays for itself by being a special search engine to a set of businesses that already make ad money. People don't like to be fooled. It creates a natural drive to fact check. You can call it reality check. You can give it a catchy brand. Is this shit true? Right? Make a turd logo. Is this shit true? Maybe that should be the brand. Make it really easy, though. You make the process easy, people are going to want to know, is this shit true? I like that brand, actually. All right, let's do the market size. So there's 2 billion plus social media users globally every day. Let's assume they fact check an average of one thing a day, just to take a number, and that we can show them 3 little ads or links to things they could buy or things they could read, books, etc., t-shirts for their favorite issue during that time. And we'll assume a dirt bottom cost per thousand value of those ads. We won't assume they're even worth very much. Sometimes they'll be worth a lot. But 6 billion ads a day generates $6 million a day of revenue, multiplied by 365 days a year. It's about a $2 billion business, fact checking. There is a lot of money to be made if you can get adoption of a fact check button. So this is a real business with real money behind it. Now, I said I would address accusations of bias. Got to take a drink for that. I get that there is no single trusted fact source that everyone's going to agree. That's why I said make it a search, make it a list. Just encourage people to dig deeper. Interesting side fact. Turns out if you track your calorie intake, you lose weight. Now, interestingly, it doesn't matter if you're very good at it or very accurate. Those people who meticulously measure and weigh everything don't particularly lose more weight than those who kind of guesstimate and say, I don't know, that was about a cup of soup. Because it's the act of tracking that causes people to be conscious of their diet and eat more healthily. The same thing's going to apply here. The people who start asking, is this true? I wonder. You've already won. Show them any damn source you want because they're curious and they're starting to learn. Any reasonable source. So this can be dozens of major media outlets from all over the world and it will still work. And again, there's going to be fringe people who say, I don't trust any of them. They're all mainstream media. They're all corrupt. Well, we don't need them. We're trying to save the masses. The few fringe wackos will remain fringe wackos. So, most users exposed to a wide variety of reasonable sources over time will find the fact check useful. This product does not rely on everyone trusting it. And importantly, it succeeds both socially and economically when many people use it. Also, there's a tendency to get into a false standard here, and this is a big point. I maybe should make it its own slide. There's a false standard of, you're going to call it a fact check, it better be perfect. No, doesn't need to be. People love Apple products, except some people who hate them. People love Tesla, except some people who hate it. People love Nike, except some people who'll never wear that damn brand. Even the most loved products only serve a subset of the market. We need to avoid the false standard that something that's good enough and gets most people facts they can trust and gets them into the idea that they should check what they read on the internet can be incredibly powerful. All right, let's look at an existing solution. I pulled this image off of Facebook, off a post that had been flagged. This is what Facebook does today. It says, false information found in your post. Independent fact checkers at Science Feedback say information in your post is partly false, blah, blah, blah. Okay. What are the problems with this? Number one, it requires manual detection process or semi-manual. It doesn't put a fact check button on everything. Put it on everything. Put it on my thing that says I love my dog. Put it on my thing that says I had apple pie for dessert today. Put it on every post. Make it available in the browser Chrome. Make it everywhere. You can still separately flag an item if you want and say, hey, this one we really think is false. You might want to click the button, but you don't need it anymore. Second, this stupidly references a joke entity no one has ever heard of. Who the hell is Science Feedback and why would I trust them? It's even worse. It plays like right into the conspiracy theorists' hands. All fact check partners with Facebook must be signatories of the International Fact Checking Network. One of the replies to this, which I cut off, you can see it says it has 5 comments. One of the comments was, that sounds like the Chinese Communist Party, which is a big meme on the right now that Biden and company are going to be run by the Chinese Communist Party. Well, this, honest to God, is playing right into their hands. It's like this group no one's heard of and signatories of the fact check. Like, what the hell is this? Get rid of this crap. Okay. It also has no revenue model and only provides people with one source to go to. So there's numerous flaws in this. Now, I'm glad Facebook's doing it, but it's not going to solve the problem, or at least it can be easily improved upon. So one of the challenges is this service is easy to build that I've described and it has few technical barriers. For someone to fund it, they want to know, how are we going to win? How are we going to be the best fact check button, the only one? Well, I promised money. Here's a couple ways to do it. Number one, establish trust through transparency of who your sources are and enforcement where if those sources prove unreliable, you throw them out. Second, sometimes being first is all it takes. eBay is not that complicated. They simply were the first auction site and they've remained basically the only auction site because being first and getting name recognition and common usage was enough. There are not 2 Wikipedias. Same thing. Wikipedia was first. It's good. Trying to start a competing Wikipedia would be weird. No one would bother. Same thing can happen here. So that's the strategy. Be first and best and become embedded and trusted. And from there, you're good. So what's my ask? This is a pitch. What do I want? Well, I didn't bother to put numbers on this, but somebody needs to give me a few $1 million. I'm going to use that money. In a pitch, you always tell the investor, what am I going to do with the money? I'm going to use that money for software engineers to build this, and I'm going to need to host it somewhere. So those are going to be what's called my use of proceeds. Now, in talking here, I realize I've left something out, which is how do they get paid back? Come to that in a minute. I'll do it verbally. This is so damn easy to build. I actually believe 1 or 2 engineers could create what I'm describing in a prototype in one day. I bet there's people on this channel who could nearly build it while I'm talking. You just need a button called fact check that takes the content of the post and pipes it through Google, and you've got a basic version of this. Maybe then tune Google to use certain sources. Okay. Next, how do you get the money? So the way you get the money is you run Google Ads against the search results. That's a known model that I can make money off of. I can do better later, but in version 1, I do that. And I can tune it up between now and when I release it. And how do you get paid back? Well, you're going to spend a few million, and I'm going to become part of several billion. That's where I need what are called strategic investors. I need investors who can help me get this button placed on 1 or more major media or social media sites. I need initial jumpstart adoption. So that's something I can't do. As the entrepreneur, I need that connection. But you get on one site and becomes a thing, and you then get on others, or you get regulators to promote that you should be on a site. You make it a movement. It can be done. What's my actual ask? Why is there something here at the bottom called open source ask? My open source ask, as we transition back to politics, is dear God, Google, Bing, Wikipedia, BBC, Twitter, Al Jazeera, somebody build this and turn it loose to save our damn world. This is not hard. It can be built by a few people in a few days in prototype, and by a decent sized team, it can be made really good in a couple months. Build it and stop the river of shit you're spreading to the world. You owe it. And if you understand anything about being threatened, after the Capitol break-in, the regulators are coming for your asses because you've purveyed all this crap. So they're coming, and they're going to tell Facebook how to run Facebook because you're a public danger. They're going to tell Twitter how to run Twitter because as you operate today, you are a public danger. When I get to use those magic words, public danger, I get to take your ass over and make you run my way. So if you want to get out of that, move fast. This is your call to action. This is your safety valve. Get on with it. With that, any pitch ends with the founder bio. This is stuff I did. It's why you should invest in me. Blah, blah, blah. It's all the reason that I'm going to actually turn your money into more money. And I always put this at the end of slides now so that when it goes up on YouTube, people who thought this was interesting or got something out of it know where to find more of me. So LinkedIn, YouTube, my website, Discord, etc., etc., etc. It's all here.